As the sun has risen across the North American continent, Sports Baseball is here to kind of bring everybody up to date as to what happened while you were sleeping as far as the Major League Baseball trade deadline is concerned. Now, I'm obviously not Sandra Bullock, but I am Steve Beck. I'm the host of Slasher Sports Baseball's Central Intelligence podcast, talking about the NL Central as well as AL slash lines. And there were a couple of moves that happened, you know, once games had started, on Monday night. There were some deals that came down, and they're notable, and we're going to touch on some of the things. But keep it tuned here to the Slasher Sports Baseball Facebook group page. We're going to be recapping every trade that comes down between now and the 6 p.m. deadline. It is deadline day, so it's now or never for your favorite team's GMs to actually get something accomplished. I think some big teams, some big contenders still have some big moves they need to make. So, no doubt it's going to be a very, very busy day. And thanks for sharing your trade deadline day with us here at Slasher Sports Baseball. The first deal I want to talk about is AJ Pollock and utility man Mark Mathias going from the Seattle Mariners to the San Francisco Giants. There was no player named yet going back. It is a player to be named later deal. It also might be a cash considerations transaction. And at first glance, you might say, well, wait a minute, why would the Mariners just give away a guy that's going to play, a significant role in the outfield, for the Giants and a utility guy that's on their 40 man? The answer is it's the 40-man roster. The Mariners went out, picked up two terrific prospects in their deal for a closer there in Diamondbacks. They dealt Paul Sewald to Arizona. They also have Josh Rojas, and these guys all need to go on the 40-man roster. The Mariners need to free up some space. So for them, it's a logical thing to do. I mean, AJ Pollock is not going to make a difference for them. He's an aging veteran. Will he have an impact with the Giants? He probably will. The Giants need to find a way to score runs on a more consistent basis. And, guys like Mike Yastrzemski and DeMonte Wade, they've been very up and down. They just haven't gotten consistent production from their lineup. So Pollock slides in. He's probably going to be a platoon guy, but, he's going to slide in and give some solid at bats. Mathias gives the Giants an option, to have a guy that can play all over the diamond. My guess is he's going to AAA, Sacramento. I don't think he's going to stick right away, with the Giants. And again, the Mariners now don't have to sweat it out too much about how they're going to find room on the 40-man roster. No doubt Jerry Dipoto is going to keep making deals throughout the day. He has the grail, if you will, in controllable young pitching, especially starting pitching with major league experience. And when it comes to trades and the trade deadline, Jerry Dipoto, remember the old Flintstones episode when Fred developed a gambling addiction and suddenly he was like, bet, 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 bet. Well, it's sort of that way with Jerry Dipoto in a trade. Once he's made one, he's going to make a bunch more. So the Mariners are going to be a team to watch. They're going to be able to bring in some significant returns to kind of retool a little bit. I mean, they don't need to rebuild. It's just been one of those years for the Mariners. Maybe they get back in it. I kind of doubt it. But Dipoto, he's a shrewd operator. So no doubt he knows the type of pieces he wants to bring back in because they're pieces he can then deal potentially in the offseason. Now, another interesting deal that came down between the Cubs and the Kansas City Royals. And no, it didn't involve Scott Barlow. So it did involve a relief pitcher. And the relief pitcher actually was going from the Royals to the Cubs. And Jose Cuas, every time I've watched him pitch this year, he seems to be getting big outs in big moments. He's got a sort of a late start to his major league career, but he throws from a really interesting arm angle. It's more of a lower release point, so it's much harder to pick up his slider from where the release point is. He doesn't throw super hard, but from where he releases it, it seems like that slider explodes on you much quicker. So it's almost as if he's throwing, in the mid to upper 90s, and he's really only touching, the upper 80s with that slider. He's a guy that has options, so they don't necessarily have to slide him in to the major league roster right away. Personally, I would. I mean, I think there are other arms in that Cubs bullpen that can go down, and I think you give Kuas, an opportunity to go there. It's a big pickup for the Cubs, and the Cubs did have to part with a guy they had some high hopes for, and it's outfielder Nelson Velasquez. Now, Nelson Velasquez he has prodigious power, but he has to actually make contact on a more regular basis. I think he's sort of had a backslide a little bit there in his career as he's gone up the ladder. He's had a little bit of major league time in 2023, and he was okay. But again, he's the kind of guy that the Royals can afford to maybe stick a AAA at the beginning, or even get him some, get his feet wet, get him some more major league at bats, because the Royals are going nowhere this year, and they really need more offensive production in that lineup. You've got Bobby Witt Jr. Vinny Pasquantino is out for the year. His replacement is now out probably for the year. You've got MJ Melendez. So you've got pieces in that lineup that are going to be good, productive major league hitters. If they can capture lightning in a bottle, I mean, I guess a good comp would be like a Jorge Soler, where when he makes contact, the ball goes amazing distances. When he does not, it can be very, very frustrating. But if you can kind of hide him down at the bottom of the order while he gets more major league at bats, Velasquez is an interesting pickup for the Royals. So Kulas is not going to be a Royal when the Royals do come out of yet another rebuild that they're having to go through with the change in GMs, and with Dayton Moore being replaced by a more analytically driven front office. I think the Royals are in it probably for a longer rebuild. They're going to be near the bottom of the AL Central for a while. So a guy like Velasquez, that makes sense, picking up for a reliever that can help a contender. And the Cubs have decided that they're going to be all in, that they're only 4 games out in the division. So quite possibly, Kuas plays an impact role there. Speaking of guys in the NL Central that are contending, the Reds right now lead the NL Central, and they picked up a left-handed reliever from the Oakland A's by the name of Sam Moll. And you might not know the name, and you might look at his stat lines and say, well, what's the big deal? I mean, he's had a hiccup or two, but really when you look at, the primary numbers as far as, strikeout rates and strikeout to walk ratios, batting averages against, those kind of like real stats that matter, not the ones that get made up by mathematicians turned baseball fans or vice versa. He's going to be a very effective bullpen piece for a contending Reds club. They only have one other lefty in the bullpen that they've been using on a regular basis, so this gives them another option. I think Mold is a guy that can come in situations where it's not necessarily the 8th inning or the 9th inning. He can come in the 6th or the 7th or even in the 5th if there's a bases loaded situation or there's guys in running and scoring position. The Reds still have not acquired that big rotation piece that they really need to do. But again, there's time. There's about 10 hours left before the trade deadline expires as we record this. But Mole can pitch in those kind of leverage situations. Remember, leverage situations aren't just the 8th and 9th inning. They occur in the 5th, 6th, and 7th. And sometimes their starters, the Luke Weavers, for example, aren't going to give you 5 innings. They might only be able to get you 3 or 4 innings. So I think Mole really, really helps out Nick Krall and David Bell by giving them another left-handed option. They moved their number 20 pitching prospect, Joe Boyle. And Boyle, he's a big guy. He's like 6'7", 250. He throws hard. He touches 100. He just cannot find the strike zone on a regular basis. So basically, think of him almost like a 2023 Alec Manoah type. He just not he has no command within the strike zone, though he throws really hard and he's got great stuff. So for the A's, a team that's not really going to focus on being competitive at the major league level until the move to Las Vegas in 2025, you take a flyer on a Joe Boyle. You're not giving up a piece that's going to be part of the solution long term. They're in Oakland slash Las Vegas. So yes, I mean, is it nice to have Sam Moll, in a bullpen, a major league bullpen? Of course it is. Would Marcotte have loved to have been able to utilize him, for the rest of the year? Sure. But you have a piece that if he finds his command, and if they can make and they can tinker with him and find a way for him to throw strikes on a consistent basis, you have got a guy that can be a workhorse in a major league starting rotation. And really, again, the A's have nothing to lose this year. So I think a good deal for both sides. It was a good baseball trade on both sides. I mean, you love those kind of trades because it helps both teams. And not every team is in a pennant race. The teams that are going to be active in this environment are also looking to build for the future. I think the Royals have done that. The A's have a chance with the acquisition of Joe Boyle to have done that. Um, the NL Central teams in particular have deepened the bullpen mixes and options that their managers have. And it's just beginning, folks. So that was everything that you missed while you were sleeping. Now, admittedly, these were not late night deals. And as the old guy here with Slasher Sports, I fell asleep as as I was watching the Yankees and Rays game and bouncing around watching other games. So it's more the old man fell asleep. So maybe it's while I was sleeping. But for the most part, you may have, after you've got past the primetime evening news, you may have not been paying as close attention. Those are the moves that are happening, and we're going to keep bringing you every trade as it happens. It won't be long bits, but we want to take a look at it. We're not going to make predictions here. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks or predicts as far as what pieces might get moved. What matters is the pieces that are moved and how that's going to affect the teams involved in those trades. And here at Slasher Sports Baseball, we're going to be talking about it all day long, leading right up to the 6 p.m. trade deadline. And we'll probably even have a couple of later in the evening videos as well, maybe recaps, maybe details that come out after the deals are announced, especially ones leading into that last hour. So we appreciate you spending your time with Slasher Sports Baseball. Be sure to join our Facebook group. And Slasher Sports has a terrific Discord community, some amazing shares, amazing insights and comments happening there, with MLB news, and as well as all of the different things involved with Slasher Sports. If you notice, I have a Slasher U hat on, Christian Rao, who handles all the Slasher U college football reporting, just dropped his first show. So please do check that out. Go to slashersports.com, go to our Discord community, look for it on Twitter or X or whatever Elon Musk is calling it today. And it is at @slasheru_. Great opening video. He's going to have a daily report Monday through Friday called The Daily Slash, and some wonderful insights kicking off the college football coverage for Slasher Sports. I'm Steve Feck. I'll be back with you throughout the day. Thanks for sharing your morning with us.